Week 12 in the NFL kicks off tonight with the Buffalo Bills and Houston Texans, two teams that probably had higher expectations for where they are at this season, which means two teams in a very big spot. Let's break down the opener for Week 12 on Thursday Night Football. I said it there in the open. I think these are two teams that probably had higher hopes for where they are at right now. The Buffalo Bills are the first wildcard team in the AFC. They are a game and a half back of the New England Patriots for that top spot in the AFC East, and thusly top spot in the AFC behind Denver as well. The Colts up there at 8-2. Obviously, we're having some, games played issues at the moment as everyone kind of cycles through their buys. Meanwhile, the situation a little bit more dire for the Houston Texans as they come into this game at 5-5. They are part of the logjam with the Chiefs and the Ravens, who are one game back of Jacksonville, who picked up a monster win against the LA Chargers on last Sunday. So a big week for both of these clubs kicking off Week 12. As we come into this one, the Bills are favored by 6 with the total at 43.5. And I just look at where you kind of match both these teams up. Obviously, Houston's defense is an elite level defense. We've talked about that for a really long time. This is a championship level defense that the Houston Texans can throw at you. And the one thing that is giving me a bit of pause, because I do think Buffalo is just a better football team. If we were still doing the power rankings here, Buffalo would be ahead of the Houston Texans. And so when I look at this, the one thing that gives me pause is that passing attack for the Bills just hasn't been there this season. And when you have a defensive unit the way the Texans do, I worry greatly that Buffalo just isn't going to be able to move the ball in the way that they kind of need to in this game on the offensive side. But then you look over at the Texans, Buffalo's defense, maybe not as dominant as we're used to seeing from this Buffalo group. I mean, it's still not a bad defense by any stretch of the imagination, but it's kind of supposed to be the calling card of this group, and they've been got a couple of times this season. They've given up 30 points in each of the last two games, after giving up 21 against the Chiefs, also 24 and 23 against the Patriots, and then that wild game against the Ravens to start the year. So not bad, but not great. The issue, though, for the Texans is obviously that offensive line. Now, the offense has been going a little bit better as of late for this Texans group, and the one thing that I think they can really attack here is Buffalo has been very vulnerable against the run so far this season, and I think that is where Woody Marks, who looks pretty solid, Nick Chubb has had his moments this season with the Texans as well. I think Houston's going to be able to run the ball on Buffalo a little bit here. So I think it is a bit of an interesting kind of yin and yang type of a matchup. I don't think Buffalo loses this game. Although, again, it feels like a must win for the Texans. But I don't see the Bills dropping one in this spot. So if we were just doing the pick'em, I would go Buffalo. But because we go kind of against the spread and all of that here in our pick per game, I'm going to go I'm going to go Houston plus the 6 points. I'm also going to take the under. I think this ends up being a pretty good defensive battle here on a Thursday night. So I'm going under with 43.5, and I'm going the Texans to cover at 6. From a fantasy standpoint, when Buffalo has the ball, I know I just very much gushed about this Texans offense or about this Texans defense. We're not sitting Josh Allen. That would be absolute crazy talk to sit a guy who put on the Superman cape last week and single-handedly won a lot of teams their weeks in fantasy football. So I can't. Even though the Texans have given up the fewest points to fantasy quarterbacks this season, I can't do it. I can't can't sit here with my face onto this screen and tell you that you should sit Josh Allen this week. Can't do it. Not going to do it. That would be just malpractice, really. So, no, not going to do it, even though the Texans are great against quarterbacks. Also, I don't think we can sit why does this keep popping up? I don't think that we can sit James Cook right now. I think that this is one of the more underrated running backs in the league. And you saw it last week against Tampa Bay. He wasn't really getting his for a while. And then he did. And he had a solid game coming out of it. So we're starting Cook, we're starting Allen. I don't think we can start anyone else after that, though. I think that the receiving core, we have seen it is just a little bit too unpredictable. We'll see maybe a motivated Keon Coleman checks back into the lineup and has a big week. I would bet against it in this matchup. This is, again, one of the best defenses in the league. The Texans have given up the third fewest points to wide receivers, ninth fewest points to running backs, and fourth fewest points to the tight end. So if we're thinking Dawson Knox as a Dalton Kincaid fill-in, yeah, I wouldn't go there. I think that it is Cook, it is Allen, and that's it. On the Houston Texans side, I would feel comfortable going with either of the Texans running backs. Chubb, maybe, because of a bit of a quieter week last week. Nick Chubb, maybe not the back that I would be looking at here. Let's pull up the exact stats on Nick Chubb, because it did kind of feel like Woody Marks jumped back ahead in what has been an ever-rotating job in that Texans backfield. But again, because of how good this matchup is, it's going to be tough to just fully stay away from a Nick Chubb here. And so looking at it, 3 carries plus 2 targets in the passing game. Last week, he had 5 and 1 the week before that. So it's going Woody Marks' way. So if you're desperate, Chubb can go. We're probably staying away. It's Woody Marks there. Nico Collins, I think, is a receiver who is good enough that you just kind of have to start him in any matchup, even though Buffalo, it's a neutral matchup against wide receivers, but they've given up the 4th fewest points to quarterbacks and the fewest points to tight ends. So Dalton Schultz, you may want to look for a better option than him this week as well. So not a whole lot of fantasy gold in the hills of Thursday night football. We're it's the studs, and that's really it. And we are really kind of limiting what we view in our studs prediction here, I suppose. So that is, not a lot of fantasy greatness coming out of Thursday night football this week. If you have any questions about the Thursday nighter or anything going on in fantasy, make sure you leave those if you're watching live. Throw it in the chat. If you are watching after the fact, leave a comment. And if you are listening in podcast form, make sure you can just hit me up on social media. I'm at Primetime Klein, basically everywhere. All right, we're going to get into more of the fantasy preview now here for the Thursday podcast portion of things today. But I would really like it if you could share this video with some of your friends. We're really trying to grow Couch Potato Diary here, and the more people who know about it, the easier it is for us to grow. So if you could share this with your friends, that would be a really, really big help for us here at Couch Potato Diary.